Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
Putting drums in there till we got him back because he is as much he. Is the true sound with the rest of guys. This is the real stuff. You understand, Malcolm Young as the rhythm guitarist of AC/DC wasn't merely the basis of the band. He represented the enthusiasm that they formed an unforgettable sound. A true Malcolm is a rock icon whose story continues beyond merely his guitar abilities, and the crowds are quite noisy. But what was his life like? Let's go into his life and find his beginnings, obstacles, and the lasting. He made a lasting impression. Ready? Let's rock. Malcolm Young was a musical legend in Australia. He was the beat guitarist, backup vocalist, and a founding member of the hard rock band AC/DC. Except for a short hiatus in 1988, he was a member of AC/DC since its inception to retirement for health reasons. From the beginning, Malcolm had clear vision. He wanted the music to be loud, strong, and energetic. He was not the one performing wild solos or on stage. Students wear school uniforms. But Malcolm was the band's backbone. His guitar playing gave AC/DC its consistent, strong sound. Fans said he was like the engine of a fast automobile. Everything runs smoothly. Malcolm worked hard, writing songs and mentoring them, band's direction. When they performed live, his crisp chords and consistent rhythm made. The song seems powerful and unstoppable. Over time, AC/DC has become one of the finest rock bands of all time, with hits like Highway to Hell and Back in Black. Despite his bandmate, and my brother, Angus, was frequently in the spotlight. Those that knew AC/DC understood that Malcolm was quiet, leader. He ensured the band stayed true to its sound and character. In 2003, AC/DC joined the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was a proud moment. For the brothers who have made something, they look fantastic together. During 2014, Malcolm had to leave the band due of his health. He had dementia, which gradually takes away memory and thinking. Skills. Despite stepping down, Malcolm gave his blessing to the band to keep going. AC/DC persisted, but it was never the same without him. Although Malcolm moved away from he made his mark in the spotlight for all time, the industry. The planet lost a rock. He was a rock and roll legend, but his music endures. Every time AC/DC music explodes over a speaker, I can hear Malcolm's steady pace, driving the music ahead exactly as they have always done so. What was his formative role? How did the years shape the man he became? Malcolm Mitchell Young was born on the 6th of January 1953, Glasgow, Scotland. He grew up in a large, hard-working family. His father, William Young, did many different jobs. He worked on a rope factory, operated machinery, and even served during World War II as a flight and engine mechanic. Following the war, I began as a builder's assistant and later become a mailman. Malcolm's mother, Margaret, remained home to take care of the family. Living in Glasgow wasn't easy, but the Youngs were powerful and stuck together. In 1963, Malcolm was just. When I was 10 years old, something happened, impacted their lives forever. That winter was one of the coldest in Scotland. History. Snow piled up as high as 8 feet, and life got increasingly tougher. Around at that time, a television advertising appeared, offering Scottish families the opportunity to travel to Australia for a fresh start. The warmer weather and better. The opportunities were too wonderful to pass up. So, in late June that year, 15 members, the Young family packed their things and set out for Australia. Remember, Malcolm was only 10 years old. Along with him was his younger brother Angus, with his older brother George. Their older brother Stephen, their only sister Margaret, and another brother William Jr. also made the trip. The other two, the brothers John and Alex, did not join them. John has already relocated to Australia sooner, and Alex stayed behind in Europe to pursue his ambition for music. He eventually joined a band named Grapefruit. When a young family, when I arrived in Australia, it felt you and unusual. The weather was warm. The sky was beautiful, and life appeared full. There are several possibilities. Malcolm and his siblings relaxed into their new house, became accustomed to the Australian way of life. Despite their limited resources, we had each other and the music. I grew up surrounded by music. His brother, George, became a successful musician. The band, the Easy Beats, who inspired Malcolm and Angus, will pick up guitars of their own. They spent hours practicing, strumming notes whilst dreaming of they're starting their own band. That dream did come true when Malcolm and Angus formed AC/DC. The band eventually became one of the best rock bands of all time. But it all began with a young guy from Glasgow who relocated halfway across to pursuing a better life with his family. Life. Growing up in a family with music was everywhere, and it became more than simply hobby. The tradition was carried along, from one sibling to another. Malcolm once explained that all of the males in a youthful family played music. His oldest, Stevie, our brother, played the accordion. Alex and John were the first, those who pick up guitars, as the younger brothers watched and listened to the music. Naturally, it made its way to George, to Malcolm, then to the youngest, Angus. When the young family came in, Australia did not have much. Their first home was at the Villawood Migrant Hostel. It was not a proper dwelling. They lived in small curved metal shelters called Nissen huts. The huts were basic and cramped, delivering little privacy or comfort. Life in Villawood, it was difficult, but it was also where things began to change for the young people. George, who was older than Malcolm and Angus. I made a friend in the hostel named Harry Vanda. Harry was also a migrant and, like George, has a profound love of music. The two clicked instantly and spent hours strumming guitar and dreamed of starting a band. This friendship will later become extremely significant, but not only for George, but for the entire Young family. After some time, young people moved out of the hostel and into a semi-detached residence. It was not fancy. However, it was an improvement above the huts at Villawood. The home became a place, loaded with melody. The guitars were always lying around and somebody was always playing. During the evening, George would teach Malcolm and Angus what he knows. Malcolm soon fell in love with guitar. He enjoyed the way it felt in his hands and the tremendous sound it produced. He strummed the strings. He practiced regularly, developing the technique of rhythm guitar, the constant driving sound that would eventually make AC/DC famous. The young household was never quiet. Music streamed forth from the little Burwood house, filling the neighborhood with rock roll. Malcolm and Angus jammed for. They spent hours being inspired by their older brothers. George and Harry Vanda started a band known as the Easy Beats. They became huge in Australia. Watching George's success made Malcolm and Angus dream, even huge. Malcolm's passion of music, I got stronger every day. He wasn't interested in being flamboyant or demonstrating off. He was alone with his passion of music. Malcolm's journey was more than just about music. It was about family and it was hard, work, and the determination to start over. But what was his career path like? Before AC/DC became one of the largest rock bands, Malcolm Young's band is one of the world's. The musical voyage included a few fascinating stops along the road. In the early 19, Malcolm, with his younger brother Angus, joined a band named the Marcus Hook Roll Band. It wasn't just any band. It was a project conducted by their eldest brother, George Young, and his music partner, Harry Vanda. George and Harry were already renowned as successful musicians for their work with the easy beats, and they wanted to try with something new. Sounds. Marcus Hook's Roll Band wasn't intended to be a serious long-term project. It was more of a fun jam session among outstanding musicians who loved rock and roll. They recorded an album, Tales of Old Granddaddy, which was only released in Australia. The record didn't create much noise at the time. However, it became legendary subsequently, because it was the first time Malcolm and Angus played together on an record. About the same time, Malcolm was also involved in other music endeavors. He performed guitar on a song titled Evie by Stevie Wright. Stevie was the former, the lead singer of Easy Beats, and the song was written and produced by George Young and Harry Vanda. Evie was not ordinary song. It was 11 minutes long. There were 3 distinct segments. Malcolm played the blazing guitar solo in section 1, demonstrating his raw talent and ability to make a guitar sing. Malcolm I even performed in a short-lived band named the Velvet Underground, not the legendary American band featuring Lou Reed. This was a local group from Newcastle, Australia. It didn't last very long. Each experience contributed to Malcolm's musicianship talents. In 1973, Malcolm I was eager to start something fresh. He was 20 years old, full of ideas and eager to establish a band with strength and enthusiasm and a sound unlike any other. He turned to his younger brother. Angus Young I was only 18 at the time. Malcolm took the role of rhythm guitarist. Angus played lead guitar. They brought Colin Burgess plays drums, Larry Van Syten bass, and Dave Evans as lead vocals. Now they needed a name. Someday they noticed the letters AC/DC on the back of their sister, Margaret's sewing machine. The letter stands for Alternating Current Direct. Current refers to electricity. But for the young brothers, it signified something else. It felt powerful, energetic, and ideal for the band's raw energy. And with that, AC/DC was born. Their debut single was named Can I Sit Next to You, Girl? It was catchy and full of attitude, but eventually we re-recorded it with a new singer named Bon Scott's version became legendary. By 1975, AC/DC relocated to Melbourne, and things really began to take off. The band's sound was taking shape, raw, loud, and lots of energy. Malcolm's, the steady rhythm guitar, produced a strong foundation, and Angus's crazy solo swooped above it. They were unstoppable. Malcolm's path to AC/DC wasn't instant. It was constructed over years of learn, play, and jam with family and pals. Each band, every recorded, and each instruction shaped him into the rock and roll powerhouse that would soon transform music forever. AC/DC was not merely a band. This was the sound of electricity as created from the hands of 2 brothers who never ceased pursuing the ideal riff. In 1977, AC/DC began to gain popularity for themselves, and their music was gaining traction in Europe. That year, they had the chance to go on tour with the Black Sabbath, our legendary band. This was a Malcolm Young had a significant moment. Brother Angus and the rest of AC/DC touring with such a popular band meant they were moving closer to the rock stardom. Things weren't right on the way, always smooth. Meanwhile, AC/DC's singer Bon Scott and Black Sabbath frontman Ozzy Osbourne struck it off and became fast friends. Not everyone got along well. One night things were tense between Malcolm and Black Sabbath's bassist Geezer Butler. Malcolm later claimed Geezer pulled a knife on him while a furious dispute. Geezer denied it ever. However, the story became one of those crazy rock and roll stories that people still discuss this still. Another significant shift occurred within the past year. Mark Evans, the band's drummer, has departed the group. He stated disputes with Angus. Malcolm played a significant role in his departure. Finding the appropriate chemical being in a band can be difficult at times. Personalities collide. Cliff Williams stepped in to replace Evans, bringing a strong bottom tone that helped anchor AC/DC songs. As AC/DC's prominence increased, so did the pressures of life on the road. Malcolm was the heart of the band. However, he was also battling personal issues. In 1988, during AC/DC's Blow Up Your Video World Tour, Malcolm had to step away. Alcohol had become a problem. He knew he needed help. It wasn't a simple decision, but necessary. While Malcolm focuses on after getting sober, the band continued with a familiar face. His nephew, Stevie Young, he filled in for him on tour. Malcolm fought hard to get his life back on track. After facing his demons, he returned to AC/DC, stronger and more focused than ever. He stayed with the band for decades, playing rhythm guitar with the same fire and precision that had defined AC/DC's sound from the beginning. From 1973 to his last live show in 2013, Malcolm toured the world almost non-stop for 37 years. Night after night, city after city, he stood on stage laying down the riffs that powered AC/DC's biggest hits. Even when wasn't in the spotlight, Malcolm was a band's steady hand, the quiet leader who kept things on track. Soon, Malcolm's health began to decline. Dementia was taking its toll, and he made the heartbreaking decision to step away from the band for good. Once again, Stevie Young stepped in to take his place, keeping the Young family's legacy alive. But even after he left, Malcolm's music remained. When AC/DC worked on their album Power Up, rumors spread that they were using guitar tracks Malcolm had recorded as far back as 2003. It was as if his spirit was still there, guiding the band he had helped build. What was his life like after leaving AC/DC? Malcolm Young's final years were a difficult time, but they showed just how much strength and love he had for his music, his family, and AC/DC. His health struggles began quietly, hidden behind the roar of the band's guitars and the bright lights of the stage. After the massive Black Ice World Tour, Malcolm got some scary news. He was diagnosed with lung cancer. Luckily, the doctors caught it early. Malcolm underwent surgery to remove the cancer, and the treatment was a success. He survived the fight, but his health wasn't what it used to be. On top of that, Malcolm also had a heart problem. To help his heart keep a steady rhythm, doctors implanted a small device called a pacemaker. Even with these health issues, Malcolm remained strong. He was quiet about his struggles, never wanting to be the center of attention. For him, the music was always what mattered most. As things got worse, Malcolm became seriously ill and could no longer play like he used to. Then he left the band. However, Brian Johnson, AC/DC's lead singer, quickly reassured everyone that the band wasn't done yet. He explained that they were still planning to get together and jam in May 2014 in Vancouver. But by the time those recording sessions came around, Malcolm wasn't there. Instead, his nephew Stevie Young stepped in to play rhythm guitar. As time passed, it became evident that Malcolm wouldn't be returning. The band's management made an official statement confirming his retirement from AC/DC. It was a difficult moment, but the band assured fans they would continue with Malcolm's support. Malcolm's health continued to decline, and he passed away in 2017. The rock world mourned the loss of a legend. But his music lives on, carried by the thunderous sound of AC/DC, the band he built with his bare hands. Malcolm Young's final years were marked by a difficult battle with dementia, a disease that slowly took away his memories, but never his love for music. It was a heartbreaking time for his family, his bandmates, and fans all over the entire world. In interviews, Malcolm's younger brother, Angus Young, revealed that Malcolm had started showing symptoms of dementia even before AC/DC recorded their album Black Ice. During the Black Ice World Tour, Malcolm was already receiving treatment while continuing to perform. He showed incredible determination, pushing through night after night. But it wasn't easy. Angus also revealed just how hard Malcolm fought to stay on stage. During those last tours, Malcolm had to relearn AC/DC's songs before every show. He would spend hours rehearsing, playing the same riffs over and over again just to keep them in his mind for the performance. For Malcolm, giving up wasn't an option. As Angus said that even with his health, Malcolm was touring until he couldn't do it anymore. Though dementia took his memory, it never took his passion or the legacy he built. Malcolm Young was more than just a guitarist. He was the backbone of AC/DC, the steady rhythm that held the band together. Even as the disease took hold, his music endured, reminding everyone what true rock and roll sounds like. Malcolm's funeral was held the same year of his death at St. Mary's Cathedral in Sydney, where family, friends, and loved ones gathered to say goodbye to a man who had shaped the sound of rock music forever. Although he was no longer physically with them, Malcolm's legacy lived on in the music he created, and his brothers in AC/DC vowed to continue playing in his honor. The world may have lost Malcolm, but his rhythmic guitar and songs would continue to inspire rock and roll for generations. What influenced his music, and what legacy did he leave behind? A few days after Malcolm Young passed away, a street artist stood in front of a blank wall in the city looking at the empty space. The artist felt inspired to honor Malcolm's memory to create something that would forever capture the essence of the man who helped define AC/DC. The artist picked up his brush and started sketching Malcolm's portrait. I imagined Malcolm's determined expression, his eyes focused, and the familiar image of him playing his guitar with passion. He knew the portrait had to reflect the spirit of the music Malcolm had created, the bluesy rock riffs that inspired millions of fans around the world. As he painted, the artist thought about how Malcolm was admired by many for his unique style. Influenced by 1950s rock and roll and the blues-based guitarists of the 60s and 70s, Malcolm had developed his own way of playing. Unlike many rock guitarists who cranked up their amps and induced lots of distortion, Malcolm preferred to play open chords through Marshall amplifiers set to low volume. This gave his guitar sound a raw, powerful rhythm without the usual heavy distortion. The artist thought about the many tributes Malcolm had received over the years. In a 2004 interview, Dave Mustaine of Megadeth had named Malcolm among the best rhythm guitarists in the world, alongside Rudolf Schenker of the Scorpions and James Hetfield of Metallica. These were some of the biggest names in rock, and yet, from Mustaine, Malcolm stood out for his steady, unshakable rhythm. As the painting came to life on the wall, the artist thought back to a 2006 punk rock song by the Australian band Frenzal Rum, titled Forever Malcolm Young. It was a song written to honor the legend, a way to remember the impact Malcolm had on music. The artist felt a deep connection to that song and to the countless other fans who had been moved by Malcolm's music. As he added the finishing touches to the painting, the street was becoming busier, but no one seemed to mind. People stopped to stare at the vibrant portrait, some taking photos, others just pausing for a moment to reflect. The painting wasn't just a tribute to a guitarist. It was a tribute to the heart and soul of rock and roll, the rhythm that carried AC/DC through decades of music, and to a man who would forever be remembered as a rock legend. The artist stepped back to look at the wall now filled with the image of Malcolm Young, his guitar held proudly in his hands, the music forever alive in the strokes of paint. The street had become a place of reflection, a place where fans could come together to remember the man who'd changed rock music forever. In 2017, Gretsch Guitars honored Malcolm Young with a special reissue of the Gretsch G6131MY, a guitar based on his iconic Gretsch Jet Firebird. This guitar was a significant part of Malcolm's career. Ashe had heavily modified it over the years. It became known as the Beast, a symbol of his unique sound and style. Now, with the reissue, fans of Malcolm and AC/DC could own a piece of history, a guitar that captured the essence of his music. On the day of Malcolm's passing, in November 2017, some of the biggest names in rock and metal shared heartfelt tributes to honor him. Eddie Van Halen, Ozzy Osbourne, Lars Ulrich from Metallica, and Dave Mustaine from Mead Death were just a few of the stars who spoke about what Malcolm had meant to them. Other musicians from legendary bands like Guns N' Roses, Billy Idol, Paul Stanley of Kiss, Joe Walsh, Joe Satriani, Def Leppard, and Scott Ian of Anthrax all took to social media or made statements about the loss. Even Foo Fighters' Alice Cooper, Muse, and Vince Neil and Nikki Sixx of Mötley Crüe joined in the outpouring of tributes at their concerts. Many of these artists chose to cover an AC/DC song, paying tribute to Malcolm's legacy. The Foo Fighters and Guns and Roses were among those who included AC/DC songs in their set list, with special performances to honor the rhythm guitarist who had shaped rock and roll with his distinctive sound. The tributes weren't just words. They were a celebration of the music Malcolm had given the world and how it had inspired generations of rock musicians. His signature guitar, his riffs, and his steady rhythm were forever linked to AC/DC's sound. Though Malcolm was no longer with them, his music lived on in the hearts of fans and fellow musicians, making his passing a bittersweet reminder of the powerful impact he had in rock music. But was he ever recognized? Over the years, Malcolm Young and his brother Angus Young have been acknowledged several times for their great songwriting and contributions to music, especially through their labor with AC/DC. In 1995, Big Gun, authored by Angus and Malcolm Young, earned the prize for most played Australian work overseas. This revealed how much their song was liked over the world. In 2001, their song, It's a Long Way to the Top If You Want to Rock and Roll, authored by Bon Scott, Angus, and Malcolm, was rated one of the 10 finest Australian songs, coming in at 9th place. In 2006, their renowned song Highway to Hell was nominated for most played Australian work overseas, and the identical event happened in 2007 and 2009. However, in 2009, it truly won the award for most played Australian work overseas. Also, Rock and Roll Train, written by Angus and Malcolm Young, won award for the most played Australian work abroad. In the same year, the Young brothers were named Composers of the Year. In 2011, their iconic song, Highway to Hell, won the most plays, Australian Work Overseas Award once again. In 2015, the songs Play Ball and Rock or Bust were both shortlisted. Song of the Year, demonstrating their continued influence in the music industry. In 2022, Shot in the Dark won the most, performed the Rockwork Award, while there, the song Realize has been shortlisted for the Song of the Year. These awards and recognitions reflect on how Malcolm and Angus Young's music continues to inspire and be adored by audiences all across the world years after making their first imprint in rock and roll. If you loved the video, like, subscribe, and click the next video appears on your screen.